Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am your host, Kimberly Dixon. Well, as you can see, we're not outside in the garden this morning. So I have a special guest coming on with me today, and it's overcast and cloudy here. And I wanted to make sure that the connection was really good. So we're doing it inside. So our garden tour is going to look a little bit different this morning. So first here we have an African violet, a beautiful purple one, and then we have a pink one. I always like to have some type of house plants in different rooms in the house because one, they help clean the air, but two, they just liven up the place and they give that air of beauty and just makes it seem more livable. But we also have a polka dot plant here as well as a pothos. Now, this is one of the a pothos is the one of the most common house plants you're going to find anywhere. And guess what? If you're one of those people who say you have a brown thumb, this is the plant that you need. That plant on the bookcase is the original pothos that I got when I moved into an apartment in 1993. That plant has been split and given away, and people have gotten pieces of it and just a wide variety of things. And this piece here is a reproduction of the original one. Here we have my beautiful, well, once beautiful calla lily, not calla lily, excuse me, peace lily, that was given to me when my father passed away in 2020. And she is a little bit sick right now. Well, he is a little bit sick. I was going on vacation, overwatered it, and now I'm trying to do the work to repair it. So even me, sometimes we make mistakes in the garden, but a lot of times it's correctable. So the pathos, it doesn't like to be overwatered, and it doesn't like to get tap water. And I did those two things, overwatered it and gave it tap water. So giving it some distilled water now, and as you can see, it's already starting to bounce back. It's got new leaves here and here. And as these older ones die off, it'll be just fine. So this morning, we are talking about fatherhood. So I'm going to bring my guest, Dwayne Garnett, on so that we can really get into the meat of this. Good morning, Jay. Good morning. So glad
Good morning.
Go on, sing us a song this morning, which sounded like a church hymn getting ready to get started.
What's going
So
on with you?
I invited you on this morning to talk about fatherhood. But before we get into that, tell everybody about yourself. Who is this man?
Well, I am Dwayne Garnett. I am the founder and CEO of Love is a Parable, a nonprofit that's dedicated to bringing people together through love. Um, have been around for now 5 years.
Isn't that
Oh,
amazing?
yep, 5 years. June would made it 5 years. So yeah, um, I know Kim because Kim and I have worked together for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
The things is going by so fast, and I'm just really at a place now where one of my clients said, "You're like a conflict navigator." I'm like, whatever it is that you need or whatever service you need to help bring people together, but to look at things differently. That's what I do, it's all done through what is called value-based education, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm just happy to be here to support you because you're more than my friend. You're my sister. And you've been
Absolutely.
doing this thing for a while too. So let's talk about daddies, fathers,
Yes,
papas.
let's talk about daddies. Let's talk about fatherhood.
Hmm.
So, when I asked you to be my guest, I told you that back in June, God really told me to do something about fatherhood, and He told me that you would have wanted to do it.
Okay.
But of course, you were doing the play at the time, Finding Patience, the musical. So that really wasn't possible at the time. And I was like, you know what? We're still doing it because the value of fathers, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. And we are so accustomed to talking about mothers. Mothers, you're next. We're gonna do a show with you too. but fathers are often overlooked in the equation. So I intentionally wanted to do something with fathers first. And here it is, July, almost a month after Father's Day, but we're going to press our way forward. So, as we all know, fathers, they carry the seed. And we are talking about fathers on In the Garden with Joyful Living because the value of seed to a garden is irreplaceable. So, I brought some plants in here just as an illustration. So, God gave everybody everything the ability to reproduce itself. And a man carries the seed. Good morning, Tara. She said, hey, family.
Hey.
So God gave everything the ability to reproduce itself. So as you can see, this is a jalapeno that is turned red. On the inside of that jalapeno are many, many seeds. Each one of these seeds will produce another plant that will in turn produce many more jalapenos that, guess what, have many more seeds in them. Same thing is true for a cucumber. Those little things in the center, those are your seeds. And it's even better to see easier on the larger cut. But everything, God gave everything to the ability to reproduce itself. He is a God of multiplication. So we have that ability when we plant one seed, that seed is able to produce itself over and over again. So that's why we are talking about fatherhood on In the Garden of Joyful Living. It's all about seeds. And I think sometimes that we forget the importance of seeds. Y'all won't catch me eating a seedless watermelon because I know the value of seeds. You don't take away something's ability to reproduce itself. So just to further illustrate that, we got another Facebook watcher saying, morning, good morning. In Genesis 38, 8 and 10 reads, then Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her and raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that his offspring would not be his. So when he went to his brother's wife, he would waste the semen on the ground so as not to give offspring to his brother. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death. Also, so let me give you the backstory on that. This is from the Old Testament, and at that time, it was a tradition that if a man died before he was able to give his wife a male heir, then it was the brother-in-law's duty to go to the wife, produce a child, but that child would be considered the son of the brother, not the brother-in-law. So Onan knew that. So instead of when he had sex with the woman, instead of giving her the seed to produce a child, he would waste it on the ground. God killed him. Seeds are incredibly important to God. So now Onan, Er was his brother, and he was also killed by God because he was considered to be wicked. So let me clarify something. We're talking about the Old Testament here, and some of the traditions that they did at that particular time in history, we don't condone or do now. But that's the backstory to the value of seed throughout the Bible. Seed is mentioned hundreds of times. But I think today in this society, we don't really value seeds the way that we should. So we're going to go ahead and get started talking to Jay about this fatherhood thing. Jay, tell everybody why you think fatherhood is so important.
Oh, that's just a loaded question all the way around. I think fatherhood.
We're going to get to the meat of it early.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think fatherhood is important because when you think about the word father itself, it does mean so many different things to so many different people. But a father, um, the one that I used to do, because we both talk about scripture a lot, I look at the father as the head, and a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think the head is, oh, you're the one that wants to be seen. But the head actually comes from the Hebrew aleph, which is also known by as a silent letter, and it takes on the form of the letter that it connects to. A lot of times, it takes on the sound. So being a father is knowing what form you should take on, knowing when to lead, but most importantly, to have a presence even when you're
Mm,
silent. And I think that a father brings things to the table that are different from a mother. They're not they are equal, but they're totally different. And I think that that's the part where people have a disconnect, because when you say that they're different, they assume that one is better than the other.
right.
But the role of a father does more than provide, does more than just protect. I like the fact that you use the seed, because what the seed truly does is all the things that are, in the ground. So the true work is not being seen. And I think that that's what a father even represents today. So many other people will get accolades before a father because you can see the branches of other people's work,
Mm,
whereas you can't see the roots of what a father will do.
yeah, absolutely. I completely, you said so many great things in there, but the last thing you said about the roots on a plant, if it's not taken care of, if it's not fertilized, if it's not, that's where a plant gets its nutrients from. That's where its life begins. So if the roots are not taken care of, then the plant will wither and die. And in the essence of talking about children, if they are not given what they need from the root, from the very beginning, from on the inside, they wither and die. It's just in a different manifestation than a plant does.
Yep.
So, which that was really leads me into what my second question was going to be. What is do you believe the driving factor is as to why fathers don't seem to value their role? Not all of them. There are some. Oh, I had a wonderful father, and I still do. He's just not in the earthly form anymore. But there are so many wonderful fathers out there. But there are some who don't seem to value the role at all, and there's this disconnect between them and their children. What do you think is the driving force behind that? And I know you don't know everything about
Yeah.
everybody, but I'm asking this from a male's perspective because women will definitely weigh in, but I don't think they're the ones that need to be answering that question.
Yeah, I will say this. I think that a lot of times when we start talking about fatherhood, since I've been doing the work with Love is a Parable, ooh, it's been quite interesting because you hear different perspectives. And I remember one that really stuck with me, where the father was going through a separation, and he said it's just easier for the children to be with their mom. And I said, well, what about the father? And he was like, no, kids should be with their moms. You should never separate kids from their mother. And I said, but I'm still not following. What about the role of the father? You think kids should be separated from their father? And he said, I never thought about it that way.
Mm,
Then the other thing that was said to me is that the mother did something that really broke up the family. And the father said, I would rather them think that I'm a deadbeat father than to have them to think something negative of their mother.
mm,
And so that started me to think. Um, I think the role of a father in America is perceived a little bit differently than the role of the father collectively with our global neighbors. And I do think that there are much more men taking a high road, um, because men don't talk. Men do not talk. This is why, if we just, I'm gonna deviate just for a minute, but even if we look at the sexual abuse crimes, is only one in six men are reported.
mm,
So can you imagine how many, like if 100 men came out to me in 1 year and none of them was reported, how many other men have
wow.
experienced things that have not been reported?
I,
So when we talk about this battle between mother and father, how many fathers are really stepping back as taking a high road, and they're looked at as the deadbeat father, and they're waiting and hoping that when their kids get old enough, their kids will truly see, like, no, it wasn't really me. And it's not a blaming game, but society has it set up where it's automatically the father is wrong, the mother is right, the mother is the best choice. That's no different than when I take my girls. I've been doing my girls' hair. I've been dressing my girls. I even was dressing my soon-to-be ex-wife. But everyone would always say, oh, your mother did a good job with your hair. Your mother did a good job with the way that you dress. Your mother did a good job. And see, and now that I'm going through a divorce, I'm experiencing the thing that these men talked about, because the assumption is the man did something wrong. The assumption is the woman is always the better choice, the one who makes the better decision. And sometimes it's not about that. You could have two great parents, but society has shaped the view so much that it is expected for men to mess up, and is expected for women to pick up the slack, to be the one. The single mother syndrome is expected in our society. So sometimes the lens is shifted where you do have a lot of great single dads. I know a lot of dads, period, that are awesome. But guess what? They still are not celebrated on Father's Day like Mother's Day. They still are not given their accolades for being a good father. Matter of fact, doing the bare minimum is praised. Doing the work of a father is seldom recognized by the collective society.
Yeah. And
So
Tamira said we put such constraints on what it means to be a man. That's sad. And it really is. But
I had cut you off.
You no problem. You said something there that the children are expected to just automatically go with the mother, and a lot of times the dad will just step back out of respect. When my parents got divorced, now I'm like 7 or 8 years old. Most horrific thing that had happened to me to date, because my brothers went to live with him, it was so it broke something in me, because my dad and I had such a special relationship. But it wasn't until we became adults. Now, we lived in the same small town. We had access to my dad. We went and stayed with him. We had a great relationship. But when we became adults, he told us that I tried to respect your mother. And eventually she remarried. So he said, I didn't want to step on your stepdad's toes, so I stayed away. I didn't get as involved as I should have. And I know that now, but I did that out of respect for her and her life. And I was like, wow, Dad. I was like, as a child, I didn't even think about that. And I definitely couldn't see it. So I think you're right in a lot of respects that we expect children to go with the mothers, and the dads are automatically stepping back because we've been taught in this society that mothers are the most important. But I think it's an equal important. It's just different.
Exactly. It's a complementary importance. And I think that that's what it is. And I think that we got to get out of the habit of the why, and just know that it is. Like, sometimes people want to know, well, why does the father need to be present? Why does the mother? It doesn't matter why. Just know that that presence is needed and is very much necessary.
Absolutely. So, I mentioned my stepdad just now. In situations like that, where there is a new man in the mother's life, whether it be a boyfriend, a new husband, do you think that male figure can actually replace the father's role?
I don't like the word replace, but I do believe that it can add to that father's role. And it doesn't always have to wait till somebody is married. For the people who know me closely, like, I'm a big fan of a village. Me and my mom growing up didn't always get along. And so, she from that old school, if you don't play by my rules, get out. And I got out. And so the guy that I call my dad, he didn't officially adopt me, but can you tell me of a story where you know of a man, just because he's his son's friend, took him in and raised him as his own?
Wow.
Ever since I was 17, 18 years old, my dad, the one that I call my dad, has been there. He's been the one, like he hasn't missed a graduation. He hasn't missed the birth of any of the children. Anything that I need, he has been there. And that's not to take away from the other father figures that I have in my life. So I'm a big component. If my ex-wife decides to get married, for one, I don't question her judgment as it relates to protecting the children.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes we may make poor decisions in our execution, but the intent is to protect our children. I don't
Right.
believe my ex-wife is going to go out here and maliciously damage our children. So anybody that she espouses after me, I'm trusting that it's going to come with that same vein. So I think that it will be good for our kids to get that extra reinforcement because he may offset an area that I'm not good at. I'm very
Absolutely.
big on village and I'm very good on it. I don't think that anybody can ever replace me because at the end of the day, my DNA is running through their veins.
Boy, you better come on there. That DNA is powerful. So I'm going to read a little bit of our comments. Jessica said, I had to create affirmation cards for Father's Day for the dads in my church because the brand I ordered from for Mother's Day didn't make Father's Day cards. That just illustrates even further what we were saying earlier about the value that's placed on mothers is not placed on fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jessica also said, that's amazing. And she came back and said, that's a blessing. I'm grateful for the father figures who have stepped in since my father's transition. So I'm a big component of the village myself. So everybody knows by now that I have a foster child. And before I ever got him, because I knew I wanted a male, because I wanted to, this calling to be a foster parent was never about me. It's about helping a child that's been put into the system at the DSS system, and I wanted to keep one out of the prison system. I might not be able to do all of them, but I can do one. So, but before I ever got him, I started talking to my village. I had a conversation with you, Jay. I had a conversation with my brothers. I had a conversation with some of my uncles. I had a conversation with my dad, which he didn't get to meet my son, but I had conversations with him about, look, I'm going to be a single mother. I need a village. I need the input of all of you guys because that's what it's going to take. I've always believed in the community, your neighbors, even my neighbor across the street will come play basketball with him. It's those things that when a child becomes a man, he'll be able to look back on and be like, the wisdom that I got from Jay, the wisdom that I got from Arthur, the wisdom that came from my Uncle Mike, my Uncle Floyd, my cousins. Just even when most of his cousins are much older, they're grown men now, but I make sure that he spends time in their company so that he can get that wisdom, that mentorship, that love. Because in my family, we're big on teaching our boys and our men, and you're never too old to receive affection. You're never too old to give it publicly.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very big on just showing that. So I'm trying to show him that men, they have all the emotions that we experience as a woman. You experience it as a man too. Don't feel like you have to hide that stuff because otherwise you just become a grown man that's weighted down and burdened with these emotions that you never exhibited because you were taught that men don't cry. And that is absolutely untrue. So at this point, let's see, Tuesday said, and we are here. The village is built. Oh, well, let me tell you, the way these people have stepped up, you, Jay, and just the way that y'all love on him like he's been with me since day one, that's invaluable. I can't. Y'all know I cried a heartbeat. I ain't gonna cry this morning, but what can we do more of as a people to strengthen families when a male isn't present?
I think the focus shouldn't be on the gender as much as it should be what do I bring to the table. Like my ex-wife showed me how to, check the oil, change a tire. You know what I mean? We could have harped on the fact, oh, my father didn't show me because he wasn't there. But that wasn't important. I had somebody that showed me, because she could have waited for a man to show me, and I wouldn't have knew what to do until I had a flat tire. You see what I'm saying? So if you just bring to the table what you bring to the table, I think everything will be fine. I think sometimes we harp on things that may not be as important to the child. Like the child may not sit around and say, why isn't there a man around? The child may sit around and say, well, why wasn't there love present?
Mm.
Or why wasn't I never enough? And then we will interject that. I think just bring what you bring to the table. Don't try to, because you have some mothers, who feel like, well, I got to be the father and the mother. No, just be the mother. You can never be the father, no matter how much you try. Just be the mother and do your part. And when you see a village, and in your village, it's the funny thing, in your village, they know where there's a lack. Like, you don't just call on me because I'm just a man. You call on me because I have a perspective that you feel will enhance your village, and I happen to be a man. You don't sit there and say, "Oh, what men can I just have around him?" No, because there's some men that you wouldn't have 10 feet of him. So there are other things that we bring to the table, and I feel like sometimes we overimpose or interject some of the smallest minute things that don't really matter, when the thing that do matter are the things that will give him life.
Right.
Yes,
You're right. It's like we don't call people. I don't call you because you're a man. I call you because sometimes I need to hear the truth, and you're gonna tell it to me, and we're gonna get mad at each other. We're gonna fall out, and before 5 minutes has passed, we're gonna make up. But we all need that person in our life who is gonna be truthful with us. But Markeithia came back and said, I love the maturity of you, brother. It does take a village, as long as the new chief understands the position of the original chief in their kid's life, always not the mother's anymore. So I love that. And Jessica came back and said, say that, just bring what you have. God provides the increase. That is absolutely correct. I truly believe that. Just bring whatever you have. It's like, because all of us together, I did a post, I think it was back in December, when I was gathering up undergarments for kids in foster care for my church. And the amount of stuff I got was, I plan to do some things individually, but the amount of donations I received was unbelievable. And I did a message at that time, we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Like, one of us can make an impact, but when we band together, our impact is far reaching. We'll never know the children that got to wear those undergarments, but the impact on their life, the fact that they can open a drawer and have some undergarments, that means something. So I've always had this mantra that I wanted to live a life of impact and influence. And sometimes that means you may not actually see the influence that you had. You may not actually see the impact, but it does have an impact. So I want to encourage everybody that when we're going through our day-to-day life, let's not leave a trail of broken people, of broken kids, or anybody that we're interacting with behind us through our callousness and through our actions, that we are just not cognizant of the impact and the influence that we have just out of the words that we speak.
Did you see Tamara's comment? She
Yep,
was
get ready to show it now.
Oh, okay.
Artificial expectations brought on by society, expectation of gender roles bring you to the table. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are all gifted with unique gifts and talents that we were just talking about the play earlier this morning. Still, the play was over in June, but I'm still just blown away. So much talent and so much truth and honesty. But if you bring what you have to the table, that's enough.
Yep.
Like, nobody can be you. And if you just bring what you've been gifted with, you bring your talent, that's enough. Simply put, that's enough.
Yeah.
Because when I put my talent with your talent, with Tara's talent, with Jessica's talent, with Markeithia's talent, that's a terrific show. That's a phenomenal show. A show that changes lives. And it wasn't just you individually or me individually. Again, it was that village.
Yeah. And I say honesty too, like whether you're a father or a mother, be honest with yourself and be honest with yourself and be honest with whoever you're in that parenting relationship with. I remember one of the things that I went into a relationship, went into fatherhood with. I was under that impression that you hear people say this all the time. Well, I'm gonna love my kids like I wanted to be loved by my father, or I'm gonna get to know what it feels like to have a father by being a good father to my kids. And that's bullcrap. No, you don't. You will never know how I feel because you don't know how your kids feel because you'll be doing all of this stuff and the kids don't want all of that because the kids have their own thing. Right. But what you can talk to your children about, like I talk to my kids. I got 2 father figures that the kids know. Both of them have been in their life. They know them as grandpas. I got Papa, they call him Papa Lulu, the guy who took me in when I was a kid, and Papa Green, who took me, who became my father figure when I was in college. They have been active in their lives. They also know my biological dad. They know all about all of that. But there are times when I tell them, well, daddy didn't get this. So I don't understand. So you're going to have to show daddy this part. Like, what is it that you need? You see what I'm saying? And a lot of times we try to overcompensate and just be honest. There are mothers out there that have been motherless mothers. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about whether your mother was there or not, but she still could have been present but absent, just like fathers could have been present but absent. So you're going through this thing trying to figure it out, and nothing is wrong with telling your kid, I'm trying to figure this out. Now, I'm going to have to make a decision. If you don't agree with that decision, that's fine. But know that I'm trying to figure this out. And the kids appreciate that honesty first. Because the one thing that happens when lies come up now, my children will say, well, dad's story never changed. See, if you always tell the truth, you ain't got to think about nothing else. And so when anytime somebody say something, my kids will be like, nah, my dad's story ain't never changed. And that's what you got to give them. Give them truth. Father or mother.
I am quick to tell them, I'm a first time mother at 51. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't tell them I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm telling them I will make mistakes.
And he knows.
But when I recognize that I make a mistake, I'm quick to apologize. And I don't just say I'm sorry. I say, please forgive me for. Because that makes a tremendous difference in just saying, I'm sorry. That's just a blanket statement that really doesn't carry any weight. And whether you're talking to a child or another adult in your life or whomever it may be, when you apologize for something, say, I apologize for whatever the act was. That gives some meat to it and some sincerity. But sometimes we just say, I'm sorry, just to placate people and to smooth things over, but it doesn't carry any meat with it, doesn't carry any weight, and it's meaningless. So when I'm trying to be a great mother, but I lived in a household with my mom, but she was cold and distant. Still love her. I forgave her many years ago, and we still have a relationship today, but she's still cold and distant. So I have to watch myself. It's like, because sometimes when I say something that I was like, okay, that sounded a little bit harsh. It sounded harsher than I intended for it to. Baby, please forgive me. And he knows about my history with my mom. He knows about my history with my dad. And I'll tell him, we're going to go through this thing together. I'm going to make some mistakes. You're going to make some mistakes. But guess what? I love you when we're mad at each other. I love you when we are not mad at each other.
Right.
And that is the covenant connection that you and I have. It's this love that's going to see us through.
Exactly.
So just talk to us about love a little bit. You know, you're the love guru.
It's funny. We must be thinking the same exact thing, because that's what I was about to say. We need to stop. You know how they say, treat people like you want to be treated. No, don't treat me like you want to be treated. Just treat me like I want to be treated. I need you to treat me like I want to be treated, not how Kim treats you. Because Kim, you might do some things to yourself that I don't want. And you might think that they're great, but I may not want that. But the same rule applies to how we receive from other people. You may be wanting to receive something that someone isn't able to give.
Oof.
And so, like, I can't lie to you. You know what I mean? So if you want me to lie to you, you got the wrong person. If you want me to stroke your ego, you got the wrong person. But if you want truth, regardless of how you feel, I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that. And guess what? I'm going to love you through that. And here's the other thing. You don't have jurisdiction over whether or not somebody else loves you.
You absolutely do not.
You can accept their love, but you don't tell a person whether or not they don't love you. If I come to you and say, Kim, I love you, you don't have jurisdiction to say, no, you don't. Because if you love me, you would. No, that's what you would do. But it doesn't mean that's what I would do. You see what I'm saying? So if we learn to appreciate people for what they bring to the table and who they are, like people will look at my friends. Most of my closest friends are all introverts because a lot of people don't know that I'm an introvert. And people who are really close to me, they know that I'm an introvert because Jay will disappear on you in a minute. Tell me 6 months and we'll come back to my hey. But allow people to be themselves and you won't be disappointed and you won't be hurt. It is manipulation if you're sitting there trying to get people to give you what you need. And don't come in here with this love language because you messed up the love language whole thing. The love language is for you to understand what you need in a relationship to communicate effectively, not to hold somebody else effective. So if you are a person that needs words of affirmation, it is not the person's responsibility to say, hey, I need to affirm Kim. No, what it is your responsibility to say, dog, I realize I didn't get affirmed today. Kim, do you like my shirt? Do you like what I did in the kitchen? Or did you like your meal? And he's like, yeah, I loved it. You got words of affirmation. You took the pressure off of the other person. It is your responsibility to deal with the things that you need in your life. It is not your responsibility to dictate what other people do. Come on, we got to stop that part. So if you truly love a person, love is rooted in truth. So the truth is whatever it is. Like, I'm not talking about you, but you said your mom is distant and cold. And your mom could be, there is a such thing called emotional detachment. I have that. And so there are certain emotions that she just doesn't attach to things and has to literally learn. And so how you may respond to that emotion, she may not respond that way. And she has to learn, like, okay, when Kim comes around, this is what makes her feel good. And each person is totally different. And for some people, they get overwhelmed, especially when you got multiple children and the way that they respond to things are totally different. They can't. So it's like a good example. I don't eat beef or pork. I got a brother who's a pescatarian, and then I got another brother who does eat beef and who does eat beef but not eat pork, and I got a brother who eat pork but don't eat turkey and don't eat poultry all together. So what my mom do is she cook the bases and she say, y'all figure it out. So what happens is we have to come to a point and say, okay, what is it that I like? What is it that I need? And how are we going to figure this thing out? We want to have a potluck. We want to bring people together. See, love will help you navigate through that space and find that common ground, because the truth is the truth regardless of how you feel about it. So if we start talking about love, we are literally talking about truth. It is organic. It is what it is. It's not a perspective. It is just organic, raw truth. And that's what love will do. When you don't have anything else to stand on, you can stand on truth, and that's love.
And that's a wonderful foundation to stand on. Tamira said, if you can't say amen, say ouch. I'm saying ouch. My toes are hurting, Jay. And then Jessica came back and said, this dude keep buying me gifts because his love language was receiving gifts. Like Siri, I am anxious. Stop buying stuff. Like, sir, I can't read as an explanation more. Like, sir, I am anxious. Stop buying stuff. He thinks your love language is gifts because his is, and now he's reaping all of these gifts on you, and that's just making you feel overwhelmed.
Right.
It's like, so you're right. We've totally taken this love language thing and just messed it up completely, because We're doing things that people straight out don't want because we want those things.
Right.
And when you were talking about my mother, I years ago, I made a decision. I made a conscious decision. I was like, she can't be the person that I want her or expected her to be. I'm gonna love her right where she at.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that, sometimes my little feelings do get hurt, but I'm still gonna love her where she's at because I know a little bit of her history. I know that she had to detach from some things to survive. So now I'm expecting her to give her something that she doesn't have. She can't give me what she doesn't have.
Right.
So we're about to wrap up here. But my last question.
Right there, I was going to say, and that's being a father, is a father will sit there and assess what it is that we all are bringing to the table and figure out how to get through. A father is not going to say, well, you got to shape up, Kim. You too soft. No. Kim has always been away. Like, I got one child you can't yell at. I got another child you can yell at. One child you yell at, she gonna cry. She gonna cry for like 2 days. I got another child you yell at, she ain't even worried about it. So you understand the dynamics of your family. You understand what you bring to the table. And the father helps you navigate through that. The father is silent, but the father also gives you free reign. Like Leilani is going through this stage right now where she wants to straighten her hair. So we gave her rules around straightening your hair. She ain't got a perm or anything like that. And don't be calling me and inboxing me. But she
Right.
Right, because I don't care. This is my child. But she got the protectant. She talked to her mom. She knows what she wants to do. Does it look its best? No. Does it look that great? No. But what I'm proud of is that she is finding her lane and she's learning how to express herself. And she's still asking permission because her mom said, don't do it no more than within a 5-day increment. So she's like, hey, it's been 5 days. Can I straighten my hair? And we're like, yep, let's just wait to the night or wait to this or do that. And she's doing that. But what's most important is she's finding her lane. And I say, the most important thing is if you damage your hair, we're going to have to cut it because we got to treat it. So that's the other thing, because you love your hair being long. But if you damage your hair, it won't be long because it'll be damaged and we'll have to cut it. So these are the things that she's thinking about and what she's doing. But my whole thing is like, let me do it or let's find this or let's do that. No, she's expressing herself. She's learning and she's going to make mistakes. She's 13 years old. So she's not going to have it all figured out. So yes, it won't look like I want it to look. But guess what? She's doing it. And that's what being a father is about, is being that silent but present, but also guiding when needed.
Yeah. And, allowing them to express themselves with things like hair and clothes is so critically important. When my son first came to me, one of the first things he asked me was, can I grow my hair out? And I gave him these set of rules, you got to take care of it, yada, 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 yada. And some of my friends would be like, he need a haircut. His head look a mess. And I'm like, no, I am letting him express himself. If he wants to grow his hair, I'm going to support that. And he wanted cornrows for a hot second. He wanted a twist for a hot second. But then he came to me and said, I'm ready to cut it. I don't like the way this looks. And we went to my barber, your barber, and he got it cut. But I think it was so important in building our relationships that I allowed him to express himself, to experiment. And Tamara said, ouch again. I don't know what you said exactly, Jay, but you dancing on her toes. But before we finish up today, I want to ask you, what is your greatest joy as a father?
My greatest joy as a father is actually being chosen to be a father. You know how we always talk about millions didn't make it? Well, millions wasn't chosen. Millions wasn't chosen to bring these children into this world. And I'm going to tell you, parenthood ain't for the faint at heart. Woo! Being a parent is hood, and that thing is ghetto. It will beat you up.
Man, if we could tell you the secret tears I have cried. I'm like,
look, if you don't have low self-esteem, being a parent would give you low self-esteem.
One of my prayers was help. That's all I said. Couldn't say nothing else. I was broken. It hurt that day. All I said was help. Jesus,
Listen, I
help me.
understand. And I understand now, like, one of the things that we do, like when we become parents, we only focus on the things we didn't like in our childhood and be like, well, when I have a child, I'm not going to do A, B, C, or D. But man, I understand why A, B, C, and D was done. Ooh, I understand. But being a parent is really hood sometimes, and it really will take a stab at your look, any hood, manhood, womanhood, parenthood, confidence, all of those things will be attacked as being a parent. But the one thing that I said that I'm most proud of is one, that he chose me. And two, what I'm going to give them is my best, and I'm going to give them consistency. So my way of honoring that gift. So at the end of the day, when the kids say whether they like me, didn't like me, couldn't stand me, mean, all of those things, one thing they will say is my dad was consistent. My dad was truthful. You see what I'm saying? So my proudest moment that he chose me, because there's several people that can't have children. You know, there's several people who have even lost their children. There are several people who do have so many different dynamics that are going on. And the father said, you know what? On these particular days, I'm going to bless you with the manifestation of a seed. And I'm trusting you with this whole life. As you trust me with your whole life, I'm trusting you with that whole life.
Ooh, that's powerful right there. Yeah. And I think that if more of us realize that whatever role we're playing, whatever we're doing in life, you are chosen for this. This isn't by happenstance. It isn't a coincidence. You are chosen. And that in and of itself is a tremendous privilege. So when I'm struggling, sometimes it might be in a whimpered, lowly voice, but I'm like, God, thank you for choosing me. Thank you for trusting me with this role, because I know this wasn't by happenstance. So, God, I thank God that you were chosen and that you realized that you were chosen, my dear friend. As I say, the thorn in my side, Lord Jesus, help us. You are one of my best friends. We don't talk that, and just like you were saying earlier, you can be. I'm an introvert. You're an introvert, and we both have our own brand of crazy. I'm gonna put that on a T-shirt. I'm my own brand of crazy. But the relationship, it never dissolves. It never goes away, and for that, I am grateful, because you are such a tremendous light to this world. You are such a tremendous gift, and I want to applaud you for all the things that you're doing with Love is a Parable, for what you're doing in your family, with fathers. And it's just the impact and influence that you have. You don't even recognize how tremendous it is. But my brother, you are truly my brother, and I love you dearly. And Marquita said, amen. It sure is not, faint is not. I can't read, y'all, but sometimes I don't know. My exit plan be in question.
Bye.
Bye, adulting. That's my baby be telling me, he didn't say it to me more than once. I'll be glad when I become adult. And I just think to myself, no, you don't.
No, you won't.
Like, this thing ain't for the faint of heart, and it don't really get any easier. It's just we learn to adapt, pivot, and adjust.
Right.
So did you have anything you want to close out with?
Well, matter of fact, I was having this conversation last night with a friend, and you brought it up. Like, I love grapes. I love grapes. It's like nature's candy. But I love seedless grapes. And we were talking about, like, I know the importance of having a seed, right? But I ain't got time to be driving down the road spitting out seeds, like, you know. You know, boom, boom, boom. Nobody got time for that, right? But I love grapes. And so sometimes it's still, those seedless grapes have helped me lose 29.6 pounds. You know, those seedless grapes have provided some nutrients in my life, even though it's not in comparison to the real thing.
Yeah. Thank you for that awareness. I hadn't thought about that. I was like, I appreciate you broadening my perspective.
Well, and I'm gonna apply this to parents. Don't think that you're not a parent because you seedless. Don't think that you can't provide nutrients and nourishment to somebody's life because you might be the supplement that someone needs in that getting by moment. You might be, because a seed may be too much for a person, too brash for a person, or it may be an inconvenience where you are strategically and conveniently placed in their life to help them get from that point A to point B. So
That's good stuff.
don't knock your seedless fruit that you have in your life. That's all I'm saying.
So, as a teenager, I made a conscious, I knew that I would never birth children. And some part of that was my history, other part of it, I just knew that I would never birth a child. But I intentionally made sure that I have been a part of my nieces and nephews' life. And the fruit of that relation is that my nephews, grown men in their 20s, will come spend the night with me. My nephew that has his own family now, and he's a college graduate, will call me when he needs to talk about something. And some of the kids, when we would go camping and we would have these campsite talks. So now they'll come talk to me. They'll come talk to their Aunt Val, even though she has children. But I never had kids. But I knew that the role that I played in their life as an aunt was invaluable.
Yep.
So just because you don't have kids, don't think that you're not a part of someone's village. You can still have a tremendous impact and influence. You can still change the trajectory of someone's life by just being a part of it. Markeithia said, that's good, Jay. And Jessica came back and said, I received that. Lord knows I got plenty of kids, even though I ain't got no kids. Yep, got plenty of kids. I have so many kids calling me Aunt Kim.
Make sure you and Jessica connect. She's a pastor out in Las Vegas, and she's doing some great things out there as well. And I think that you guys will complement one another well in the stuff that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for all your wonderful comments and just really being involved in this conversation about fatherhood. And if you want to be involved in the conversation about motherhood, come back. We're going to be doing that really soon too. And I'm doing In the Garden of Joyful Living every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. To talk about life issues, to talk about gardening, to talk about spirituality, and bring it all together so that we can live more fulfilling and more joyful lives. Because we were not put here to be heavy laden, burdened, and drugged down. If we operate as a village, if we plant a seed, it's going to produce something. So guys, we've got the last comment from one Facebook said, this was amazing. So glad I tuned in. We're so glad that you were tuned in with us here on today.
Thank you. All of us who are content creators, for some reason, they don't let us show our stuff anymore. So she's another content creator for some reason. But yeah, that's Kia Cherie.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, she's a model. Oh, Kim modeled in my first Love is a Parable video. The father told me, like, hey, you're supposed to be a model. And I didn't know that Kim always had aspirations of being a model. And she modeled our first line of apparel in 2017.
So you're absolutely right, Jay. When I was in high school or young woman, I had my dream was to model, but at the time I was so self-conscious and so broken from all the things that had gone on in my life. I never pursued it. So when I got this opportunity, it was a dream come true. Now, was I the best at it? Maybe not. But I can never forget that you helped me to fulfill one of my greatest dreams. And I love you for that.
Love you too.
And another Facebook said, hey, Kim, I'll recruit you too. LOL. But guys, thank you so much for watching and being part of this great conversation on fatherhood, the joy of fatherhood. I will see you next time. Jay, I love you. I'll talk to you all soon.
Love you too. Bye, y'all.